On this episode of 10-8, we'll explore crime trends in our community and learn how street-level suppression efforts, undercover investigations, and criminal investigations all work together to solve crimes and keep you safe. It's an episode you won't want to miss, so stay tuned. We're about to go 10-8. Hello and welcome to another episode of 10-8, your inside look at the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. I'm your host, Brian Beatty, and on today's show, we'll explore crime trends we see in our community and talk about the ways that the Sheriff's Office uses a multifaceted approach to solve those crimes and keep you safe. We have a great panel with us today, beginning with Captain Doug Hardy, who is in charge of the Criminal Investigations Division, Lieutenant Brian Hester, who's in charge of the Special Investigations Unit, and Sergeant Sue Woodward, who oversees our STAR team. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And Captain Hardy, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about what's included in the Criminal Investigations Division.
The Criminal Investigations Division main component is follow-up investigations throughout the agency. The unit is made up of general assignment detectives. Some work property crimes, persons crimes. We have our crime analysis unit. We have also in there, we have the Special Investigations Unit, which Lieutenant Hester will talk a little bit about. We have investigators that work internet crimes against children. We have evidence. We have property, crime scene, and probably a few others.
Okay. Lieutenant Hester, tell us a little bit about the Special Investigations Unit and how that fits into CID in its specialties.
Well, like the captain said, it's a part of the Criminal Investigations Division. It's a separate component of that division. Special Investigations is made up of 4 different units within. We have approximately 23 deputies. I have 3 sergeants that oversee the 4 specialty units. Those units consist of our narcotics unit. The narcotics units, just like the name says, they mainly investigate drug, vice, and prostitution cases. We do organized crime cases, long-term, short-term cases, or investigations, I should say, with regards to vice and narcotics. Next unit within there is our warrants unit. The warrants unit is primarily serves all St. Lucie County warrants within St. Lucie County. In addition to the warrants for St. Lucie County, our warrants detectives are also members of the U.S. Marshals Task Force. And as part of that task force, they serve the entire region as part of that task force for any federal warrants or fugitives from justice. And those are within our county and our surrounding counties as well that they assist in that effort. We also have the agriculture unit. The agriculture unit is primarily responsible for any property crimes that are west of 95 and the Turnpike in our more rural areas of the community, the ranches, the groves, the farms out there, the cattle ranches, and so forth. And those guys are very familiar with that area. They're very familiar with the people out there, the landowners, the ranch owners, grove owners, and who should be there, who shouldn't. And they also help out our road patrol units when they come across issues with regards to cattle or livestock that are out in the roadways, and those guys kind of serve multi-purpose community relations as well as detectives in that area. And then finally we have our auto theft unit. And the auto theft unit, everybody thinks it deals with just vehicle thefts, but those guys deal with everything from vehicle, vessel, trailer, cargo theft, anything that could be related to transport.
Anything that moves.
Anything that moves, that's correct.
Yeah, good way to describe it. Sergeant Woodward, tell us a little bit about the STAR team, a very unique unit within the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, it is. It's a subdivision of the Road Patrol Division. The The unit does not fall under criminal investigations. However, we're the cohesiveness between road patrol and criminal investigations. It's a smaller unit made up of 6 members plus myself. We're at the liberty to work crime suppression. We are at the liberty to do surveillance. We can do longer term investigations. We have more time on our hands and the ability to work more of a longer investigation. We assist criminal investigations divisions with surveillance, or if we have a crime trend where there's a lot of burglaries in an area, we'll go and we'll supersaturate the area. We'll do field interrogation reports, things like that. Just kind of an influx of extra road patrol officers. We also assist the Special Investigations Unit if they're doing any large operation where they need more manpower, if they run any type of interdiction, if they do anything that might need anybody extra. Usually they look to us to utilize. Not to say we don't assist road patrol, because that's our main function.
Sure. And tell us what STAR stands for.
It's strategic, tactical, and response.
So it is that go-between between the units that are on patrol, that are taking calls for service, and maybe any other special assignment that the agency may identify.
Yes, that's right.
Very good. Well, each of your responsibilities kind of overlapped. You all talked about a little bit of the same types of things. That's really kind of a trend that we're seeing more in law enforcement, and our agency's really taken a much more proactive stance in that. So each of you talked just a little bit about how you work together with all of the other areas of the agency. And Captain Hardy, we'll start with you, and you all can kind of fill in.
I'll talk just a little bit about how I interact just with their 2 units and how they all tie together. But for instance, if our crime analysis unit sees a crime trend of, let's say, burglaries in a particular neighborhood, Sergeant Woodward will work alongside of our crime analysis unit, maybe identify some patterns. Her people will be flexible enough. And then Lieutenant Hester will work. If we have a burglary problem, maybe we have an addiction problem that is the root cause of that. So that's just one incident where her people, not being assigned to particular zones, have the ability to go out and saturate areas, develop leads, suspects, and then Lieutenant Hester's folks can work on the drug angle. So it all ties together. If we don't work together, we lose.
Sure. And both of you, just in a few seconds that we have left in this segment, just talk a little bit about how you two work together between your 2 units. Sergeant Woodward talked a little bit about that already.
Well, like Sergeant Woodward said, anytime we're doing any special operation that requires extra manpower or the presence of marked units and uniform presence as well, we always work very closely with the STAR team, because they're more experienced in the street level operations of narcotics or any of the other investigative methods, looking for the fugitives, anything. So we work very closely with them, as well as road patrol and all the other components. As my guys are on call 24/7 if there's any narcotics related, auto theft or warrant fugitive type questions, we'll respond at the drop of a hat.
Okay, and we'll be right back with much more to come, so stay with us on 10-8. And welcome back to 10-8. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. And again, we're here talking about crime trends that we're seeing in the community and how the agency is working together to prevent those crimes and keep you safe. We'll pick back up with Sergeant Woodward, who has some examples of some crimes that have recently taken place that really were solved by a teamwork approach.
Yes, and that's the main score right there, is teamwork. If we didn't work together, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. Recently we had a rash of fires up in the northern part of the county in a certain area where we had in excess of 26 fires in 2 weeks. The fires were getting closer and closer to homes. They were generally brush fires. However, whoever was setting them was reckless, and to the point where we'd be dispatched to one fire and another one would be started while we were on the scene. At that point, I met with the intelligence-led policing unit, who are a group of our analysts who put together a mapping of where the fires had been, the time of day they were occurring, the days of the week they were occurring, and with all that information, we sat down as a team, the STAR team, and analyzed that information because we were going to do surveillance. We got with the Criminal Investigations Division, told them what we were doing. We went out our very first day. It was luck, maybe it was just because we were at the right place at the right time. But immediately we see somebody go into the woods. He's on a bike. He comes out of the woods. There's smoke there. There's a fire. We stop him. As soon as we stop him, he admits to starting the fire. Criminal Investigations responded out to the scene. The detectives came out. They took the subject back to headquarters. He was ultimately charged with that fire, and all the fires were cleared off him. He lived in that neighborhood, and that was his thing. He was just setting fires. So the working between us is exactly what we needed, and just shows that it does work. We work as a team.
And Lieutenant Hester, we've talked a lot about things that involved different components of our agency, but one of the things that your unit specifically has that is kind of a real example of the partnerships both inside and outside our agency are federal partnerships. Tell us a little bit about those and give us some examples of how they work.
Well, we have both federal and state partnerships. And what those partnerships allow us to do is utilize more resources and have more resources available to utilize during our investigations, from funding, from equipment to manpower, as well as other investigative resources. But an example, one I already talked about, was the U.S. Marshals Task Force. Aside from the U.S. Marshals Task Force, we have FBI, what we call TFO officers, which are task force officers. And they're sheriff's office deputies and detectives, but they're carrying credentials for that federal agency, have gone through background tests, and allow us to access those resources, manpower, funding, and different things that are out there that are provided by the federal government. We have an ATF TFO, we have a DEA TFO. So with all of our federal partners, we have someone assigned. Homeland Security doesn't have the same type of program with a TFO. However, we work very, very close with our Homeland Security group as well, and they will get involved in a case, and they can provide funding or other assistance as needed as well. So all those resources allow us to do things that normally, from budgetary reasons or manpower reasons or just resource allocation, we wouldn't even be able to take on.
So if there's ever a case that's complex or complicated and we may not have the ability to do a type of analysis or do some sort of research into it, it's safe to say we have a partnership that will be able to provide that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that kind of makes us unique, not to say that other agencies don't have those type of partnerships, but it really expands our ability to be able to solve crimes and keep the community safe.
And I don't mean to say that it's just a federal partnership. We have state and local
Yes.
partnerships. For example, we have a relationship with Martin County Sheriff's Office, and the big thing in our world in the special investigations is that those crimes don't know jurisdictions and boundaries.
Right.
And so that being said, we work very closely with our other municipalities and sheriff's offices and surrounding counties and have those partnerships that we have mutual aid agreements and have been deputized in other counties or have deputized their people. And we're able to work cases where back in the past we would draw that line at the county line.
Sure.
You know.
And
Well,
Captain Hardy, you mentioned early on that crime scene was one of the components under CID. Tell us a little bit about some of the skills that the crime scene analysts have and maybe how they've been able to solve some of the recent crimes. The UPS truck is a big one that a lot of folks may remember.
Well, people see, I think, a lot of TV shows about CSI, crime scene, and they talk a lot about DNA, but DNA technology is changing. But we rely heavily upon fingerprint technology. It's just one particular case. We had basically a carjacking of a UPS truck where they carjacked the vehicle and then took it to another part of the county and started unloading the packages and went like on a Christmas spree. So through that investigation, our crime scene analysis people were able to identify several suspects that were key and actually make arrests and identify through fingerprints off cardboard boxes. So technology's changing, lighting, instruments, camera technology it's phenomenal.
And all of that information then gets passed between the detectives and the analysts to intelligence-led policing, and then from there out to folks like the STAR team.
Oh, definitely. And some of these, well, in the one case we just talked about, some of the suspects that we arrested in that case, their names have been brought up in many other cases, so they're involved in other violent crime, which, Sue's unit is heavily involved in that.
Any other cases, Lieutenant Hester, you just had a recent case that involved a lot of folks from around the state. Tell us just real quick about that in a few moments we have left.
Operation Breadwinner, it was termed. And again, we utilized our partnerships. We had FDLE, Martin County, FBI, DEA, Homeland Security. All were involved. The statewide prosecutor for Florida was involved as well. And again, that was a case where we had a criminal organization that was operating from St. Lucie County over to the West Coast and all the way down to the Florida Keys. And again, jurisdictional boundaries, lines, resources. We were able to conduct this 9-month investigation and stop a pipeline for cocaine and vessel and auto thefts in the area.
Very good. Well, we'll be right back with just a few more updates on crime trends and some community service aspects of the folks here on the panel. Stay with us. Welcome back to 10-8. We have just a few more minutes left in this show, and we want to spend that time talking about some of the really great things that the folks here on our panel and the employees that work for them do in the community. We'll start first with Sergeant Woodward, the STAR team. You've talked about as a very unique team within the agency, and you've talked about some of the suppression things that they do, but talk a little bit about some of the community service things that the STAR team's involved with.
Well, I don't know if you'd call it the best, but I think they're the best part of the job. It gives us some downtime from going out there and just running 24/7. It gives us the opportunity to build bridges, and we've seen great progress with that. We joined First Step on Tuesday evenings at 4:30 at First Step Park over at Avenue K and 31st, where a group of kids get together. The Van Duzer Foundation brings out pizza. It's just the numbers have started out 12, 14 kids, and now it's 50 and 60 kids that come out on Tuesday afternoons. They know our names, we know their names, they see us on the street, they see us off duty, they recognize us, and that's the great part about the job. We've also joined forces with the Housing Authority and the Boys and Girls Club up at the Williams Center at 3104 Avenue J. We had our grand opening second week in May there. Hundreds of people showed up. The kids loved it. They had cookies, pizza, soda, all those things that kids love best, but they liked seeing us. They recognized us. They liked coming and taking pictures with us, things like that. And they tell us things. They tell us things that 5- and 6-year-olds probably shouldn't know, but they do. So we're able to step in and mentor them at the same time, educate them, tell them what they need to do in those situations when they're caught in a hard spot, and they really, really have responded. It's been a great partnership. Housing Authority, has jumped in full bore, and the Boys and Girls Club, of course, they're great partners as well.
Lieutenant Hester, talk about some of the things that SIU does in our community.
Well, a couple of important things that Special Investigations involved in. One is the drug take-back program and our prescription pill drop-off box at the Sheriff's Office in the lobby on Midway Road. You can bring your unused prescription pills and drop them off free of charge, and we will dispose of them properly through the Sheriff's Office. We also participate in the DEA drug take-backs, and sometimes we'll set up locations outside of the Sheriff's Office to take those prescription pills back. In addition to that, all of the units within Special Investigation are open to requests from the community for talks or concerns from homeowners groups, from special organizations, and quite frequently we go out and give those talks to those organizations, whether it be a group of mental health workers who are concerned about signs and symptoms of new drug trends in the community, or whether it be a homeowners group and talking to them about prescription pill abuse or how to dispose of their prescription pills and how to not be a victim. But we're always willing to do that and go and talk with the community. And the community, quite honestly, is where we get our best cases from tips from the community, sure. Those homeowners groups and the people who live in the neighborhoods.
Captain Hardy, you mentioned while we were on the break about a program that just went into the schools.
Yeah, just today, one of our crime scene investigators was out at Lincoln Park Academy presenting to some 8th graders some of the science they use in their job. So we, outside of that, we just last weekend had a shred day. Our economic crimes unit came to me and said, we are experiencing a lot of identity thefts. People don't know what to do with their former tax returns, their paperwork. So we had a shred day. I think we had 91 people show up, a very successful day. So like Lieutenant Hester said, we're always willing to come out and educate the public on tips and trends that we're experiencing.
And Sheriff Mascara mentioned that in our last show. He talked about basically a national program called If You See Something, Say Something, right, where you can report tips. And we have a place on our website where we actually get tips. And those tips get funneled out to whatever area of the agency might be responsible for that. And Lieutenant Hester, you see them on a frequent basis, and they often help you guys in your investigations.
Yes, as recently as last week,
yeah,
we apprehended a fugitive. It ended up being a SWAT call out, but we apprehended a fugitive, and that tip came from the public on our website. And those are sometimes the best cases that we make in special investigations come from tips from the public. Just one of note was the storage facility down at Port St. Lucie Boulevard. Somebody smelled something funny when they went to their storage facility, and they called the tip into the sheriff's office. And we ended up uncovering a young man who was basically shipping synthetic drugs all over the United States.
All from a simple tip because somebody felt weird about something and they either called it in or they reported it online.
That's exactly right.
So when you talk about getting the community involved, the best way to do it is to, if just something doesn't seem right, to let us know.
And we take every one of them seriously. Everyone that comes through, we assign to a detective, and they have to give a disposition.
Very good.
And we keep ourselves approachable. We make ourselves available so people feel comfortable coming up to us and telling us these things, calling us with the tips, and I think that's the magic of it, is that the community's really coming together to help themselves.
Well, and I think between the community coming together to help themselves, like you just said, and the multifaceted approach that the agency has, to where just because you're on this side of the building doesn't mean you don't talk to the people on that side of the building. Everyone works together, and those tips are all checked out and followed up on. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on 10-8. I want to thank each of you for being here today, and thank you all for tuning in to another episode of 10-8. If there's anything that you saw on today's show that you have questions about, you can contact our office at 772-462-7300 or go to our website at www.stluciesheriff.com. On behalf of Sheriff Ken Mascara, thank you for joining us on another episode of 10-8.